Hello, Facebook Livers. It's old Spanny. And as you all sign in, I was explaining, so I'm doing a triple tasker right now. So I'm going to get a little bit confused as to whom I'm talking about at what time I am talking to them. So I'm running, right now I'm running a Zoom call, and I hear my echo, so I'm going to try to axe that. I'm running a Zoom call. I'm running a Zoom call along with a Facebook Live, and I'm going to be recording my call-in. Are you at school? Are you at school? If you are and you're allowed to be listening, that's cool. But if you're in school and you're not allowed to be listening, well, make sure you mute it or pay attention, one or the other. So Facebook Livers, I'm going to hop into this week's What I Learned. And like I said, I'm running a Zoom call for my AMX team members, and then I will be clicking record also to record this episode for the podcast. So it's a really interesting thing. I have some guys on this private call that are muted and minimized, so I know they're listening. And then I'm watching Facebook live stream right now. Dorian, Lock Haven represent, whoop whoop. And then I'm also going to be talking to the podcast. So this is like pretty cool on-the-job training. Because if you're in front of Rob Weichel, welcome. Because if you're in front of an audience, Nick Belfiore is watching on Facebook Live and on Zoom. Holy cow, this is crazy. But if you're in front of an audience, you know what? I don't know. You're a teacher, you're a speaker, you work, and you're maybe doing a sales pitch, whatever it is. You know, you're looking across the board and you see people looking at you, and you think you might get thrown out of your rhythm a little bit. It's the same way here. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, am I talking to the podcast? Am I talking to Facebook Live? Or am I talking to Zoom? And at the end of the day, I'm talking to all three of you. So as I'm about ready to hit record for the podcast, I'm not going to look, welcome Isaac, I'm not going to look at the Facebook Live, right? Because the feedback will mess me up. But what I will do is, after I end the podcast, I will say sayonara to Facebook Live, and then I will talk to AMXT, and then I will respond to all of your comments, questions, feedback in the Facebook live stream. So if you're watching on Facebook Live and Zoom, I encourage you to do this. So this is the What I Learned This Week episode, and it's an aggregation. That's a new word. An aggregation. It really sums up what I'm doing here, collecting this content and then aggregating it, putting it in one place, because here's the deal, people. It's all about learning. Learning will get you what you want, right? And we're not just talking education learning, though we are talking education, formal education learning. We're talking about education, right? Diversity of knowledge, knowing what's what. So you can sound more intelligent in conversation, so you can pick up the habits and practices of the most successful people in the world. That's what we're learning here, and that's why it's important to gather this stuff. So that's the point of it, right? The happiness of learning. That's what we're about ready to undergo. Dread, you're making all these cheesy comments, and I've got to look away, my friend, or I won't be able to concentrate. So I'm going to go into podcast mode right now. Tell me on Facebook Live what you enjoy or something that struck your chord. Zoom, same deal. I'm going to go into podcast mode, so I'm paying attention only to the podcast people that will be listening. 1, 2, 3. Hello all, and welcome to this week's edition of What I Learned This Week, right? Because it's this week's edition, I guess I can just say what I learned. And what this is, if you haven't already, please visit charliespaniard.com, opt into my weekly email, and every Friday I'm going to send you a nice little PDF document. If you hear that, it's the PDF document. And it's just called What I Learned, and it's an aggregation of the week's most power-packed learning points. And what I do, so every day, I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm studying, I'm taking notes, making lesson plans in my book for AM Excellence. And then what I do at the end of the week is I go through that notebook, through that journal, and I say, which one of these strikes me the most, right? So, we started this show as a fighter's mindset. Rocky's my hero. I'm a wrestler. I'm a fighter. I have this goal of global domination with the Spaniard brand. So what things from this page push me in that path the most? What bits of information from all of the information I've consumed, what is giving me that kick in the butt, right? Tomorrow morning when the alarm goes off on Saturday morning and I know the whole world's sleeping, and if I really, truly want to get after it, if I really, truly want to get after it, if I really, truly want to accomplish all those goals and dreams that I have, which learning nuggets are going to do that for me the most? So that's what I put down right here on this document. This is the 49th week I think maybe we'll have like a 1 year, probably nothing. Actually, I was going to say 1 year reunion or 1 year party, but probably not. It'll just be 52, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. But you can get that at charliespaniard.com. So let's get rock and rolling with this week's content. Now, I finished up one book and I started with another book. And we actually have a new feature on the podcast that is absolutely, I think it's awesome. I've been told from successful business people that this is an ingenious idea. I've gotten some good feedback from people initially as well. So my hope is that this new segment will develop into something big, maybe even the prominent feature. If I could read books, teach the books I read, and then teach Spanish, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I would love to do. So let's get cranking here. If you heard that beep in the background, I appreciate it, but it was my notifications. And I don't know how to mute it, to be honest. So let's get cranking this week. So I finished up a book, Crushing It, by Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk is a marketing guru, marketing expert, from whom I've been learning and studying for many, many years. I read his books, I listen to his podcasts, listen to his keynotes, etc. He's actually the type of speaker, the type of keynote speaker that I aspire to be. One who is continuously learning, continuously speaking new things to a new crowd. It's what I want to be as a speaker. He teaches people how to build businesses, and I'm building a business, so it's very pertinent to me. And one of my favorite things that I read in this entire book was a quote that said this: "The market will tell you if you've got it or not." That sounds kind of simple. It's not ingenious. It's not like the most complex thing you ever heard, but it's so true. The market will tell you if you've got it or not. Now, I don't care if you're in business. I don't care what walk of life you're in. I was just talking to a friend, a listener as well, who said something about doing BJJ, doing jiu-jitsu, committing to it for a year. Now, this is the thing. The market will tell you if you've got it or not. The market will tell you exactly where you stand in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's it. The market are your opponents. So I don't care if we're actually talking about a market, or if we're talking about your opponents at the gym, or if we're talking about the weights, right? That weight bench that you're staring at, or the number of reps of push-ups that you do in a day. The market will tell you if you've got it or not. And then from that telling, it's your job to do something about it. Also, this brought me back to one of my favorite concepts from the book I read, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And he said this: it was there's no such thing as empowering as real-world validation. There's no such thing as powerful as real-world validation. Look, people, if you're listening to this show, there's a good chance you have hopes and dreams. There's a good chance that you have beliefs and you aspire to be something great, to do something great, maybe to change the culture in your school, change the culture in your business, change the culture in your gym. But here's the deal. You've got to get in front of your BS. You've got to get in front of it. You've got to get that real-world validation. Look, we all have a voice. We all have a voice, especially because of social media, especially because of technology. We all have a voice. But unfortunately, because of that voice, too many of us have become entitled that our voice actually matters. Well, guess what? Your voice might not be as important as you think it is. So if you believe it is, get it out there, get that real-world validation, assess, and then move forward. Look, I'm on episode number 425 of AM Excellence. The market has told me, hey, this show has legs, but the legs are a little bit short. The legs aren't sprinting. The legs are taking some time to grow, but it does have legs. If this were AMX 425 and we had millions of listeners, guess what? That would be a different message. So I've got to assess that real-world validation. I've got to assess that market, and I've got to move forward. And that's exactly what myself, exactly what Dredd, and exactly what our team are doing. So the market will tell you if you've got it or not. And again, all of these 7 bullet points are taken straight from this week's episodes, one from each episode. That was taken from AM Excellence 421. Moving on to AM Excellence number 422. So Dredd and myself have come into a great situation, a really neat situation, to work hand in hand. Not actually hand in hand, we're not holding hands, but we've had the opportunity to work side by side with Jack Canfield, who is the co-author of Chicken Soup for Your Soul and the Success Principles, his partner Patty Aubrey, and Todd Armstrong. So the three of us are working together to combine, to collaborate, right? The Spaniard brand and the Jack Canfield Chicken Soup for Your Soul brand, Success Principle brand, to help each other, to mutually benefit, and to expose each other to different brands. And as part of this process, I'm getting certified to teach and train the Success Principles principles, and there's 67 of them. So literally Jack Canfield wrote the book on success, right? Or at least he wrote one of the books on success. It's called The Success Principles. There's 67 of them. So I'm tackling all 67. Look, this is a selfish pursuit as much as it is a selfless pursuit. These principles, when I was exposed to them, when I started reading about them and learning them, I thought, holy cow, these are really stinking good. And this could really benefit me in my life. The subtitle of the book is called How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be, right? The Success Principles, how to get from where you are to where you want to be. Sounds pretty good to me, right? Sounds pretty good to me. I'd like to get where I want to be, so I'm going to do all I can to learn. Again, lifelong learning, the power of learning. I'm going to do everything I can to get there. So what I'm doing is I'm covering 3 principles per AM Excellence episode, Monday through Friday. And then from those 3 principles each day, I picked one. The one when I looked at that page, I thought, bam, that smacks me in the face. Just like a kick across the face from Anthony Johnson's shin, right? Or a right on the button from Danny Castillo. That's how powerful these learning points are to me. The first and foremost success principle, number 1, take 100% responsibility for your life. Boom, bang, bam. That's it, folks. If I had a mic, I'd drop it. Take 100% responsibility for your life. Success principle number 1. Do you think it's a coincidence it's number 1? No, absolutely not. It is numero uno. And if you remember the elements of excellence, vision, value, success, accountability, surroundings, accountability, it's right there in front of you. Take 100% responsibility for your life. There's a great mathematical equation from the readings of that principle that say E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. You've heard before, you can't control what life throws your way, but you can control how you react to what life throws your way. You hear me say all the time, control the controllables. That's the deal, folks. The events are going to happen, period. Some good, some bad, some awesome, some terrible. Some are going to happen, some bad things to good people, some good things to bad people, whatever might make sense, might not make sense. Boom, bang, bam. That's it. That's the universe at work. The event. However, the response is what you and I control. The response to these things, good, bad, whatever they are, will produce the outcome. So if you want a different outcome, you can't change the event. Guess what? You can change the response. Take 100% responsibility for your life. That is from AM Excellence number 422. Now the next one, this is the new, cool, fun thing que vamos a hacer en el podcast. Vamos a aprender español y cada semana voy a hacer un episodio enseñando español. So once a week, I'm going to put out, and we'll do this until this is what I love, right? Learning in action, right? Real world learning right here. Until the market tells me if I've got it or not, we're going to do it, right? We're going to start teaching Spanish on the Spaniard podcast. You hear that, my friend? So if you're sitting there, if you've ever said, let's say this, post 18 years old, have you ever said to yourself, boy, I wish I would have paid attention in Spanish in high school? Right? If you have, wherever you are, raise your hand. Actually put your hand in the air. I can't see you. I don't know if you're doing it. But if you've ever said that, I've got good news for you. I'm going to start teaching it on my podcast once a week. I'm going to put out a Spanish episode on Tuesday of every week until it works or it doesn't work. But here's the deal. I want it to come from you. I want you to tell me exactly what you want to hear on the show. Therefore, if you would please go to charliespaniard.com/Spanish, charliespaniard.com/Spanish. Tell me exactly what you want to learn. It's easy. The form is very easy. You just send me what you want to learn. Boom, I teach it. That's it. I'm going to teach it in a fun, entertaining way. It's going to be useful because it's going to be exactly what you want to hear. There's no catch to it. It's free Spanish lessons. And one of the things I said, so it's called Speak Spanish with Spaniard. Speak Spanish, Speak Spanish, SSWS, Speak Spanish with Spaniard. I said from that episode, when you're learning a foreign language, it's just like fighting. At first, you will stink. There's no other way around. You can't fake it. You just gotta start. That's the truth, folks. Anything. This show, it's about taking initiative. It's about action. It's about, as Success Principle says, how to get from where you are to where you want to be. It's about taking that step, or actually those 1,000 million little steps to get there. Look, when I started speaking Spanish, it was yo hablo español. Yo me llamo, which is actually grammatically incorrect. Yo me llamo Carlos. You can't fake it. Pero ahora puedo hablar un poco más mejor, un poco mejor. I can speak better, still not perfectly, because I am a gringo. In my heart and soul, I am a gringo. But that's it. I want to teach you Spanish. Quiero enseñarle español. So please go to charliespaniard.com/Spanish. Send me an email. Tell me exactly what you want to learn, and I will teach it. I'm literally going to print out the emails, read them, teach them, and then save them on my computer and put a little star beside it that says used, right? Or taught. And that's how I'm going to log it. Moving on to AMXweekly 423. Success principle number 6. Use the law of attraction. Use the law of attraction. So the law of attraction says this: whatever you think about, you bring about, right? That's an easy way to remember it. Whatever you think about, you bring about. That which is on your mind, that which is a fixture in your brain, a la pursuing the UFC, you attract to you. And one of the neatest things about look, and here's the deal. You might say to yourself, that's foo-foo, Spanny. What? That's foo-foo, Spaniard. I don't believe it. Okay, well, here's the deal. You can believe it or you can't believe it. And if you don't believe it, okay. But if you want to believe it, then let's do it and it might work. If you don't believe it, it ain't going to work. If you do believe it, which I believe it, it's either going to work or it isn't. So you're increasing your odds by 2 by simply believing. Okay? Law of attraction. I read this first with Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. And he talked about your brain being like a radio station where it's sending out frequencies. So I'm thinking about the UFC. You know, let's not use the UFC. I'm thinking about growing the podcast, being an international speaker, building the brand to be global, right? So those frequencies are going out. Well, guess what was brought into my life one way or another? Jack Canfield. And guess what Jack Canfield and Patty Aubrey and Todd Armstrong are helping me do? Build the Spaniard brand. Did it happen because I was thinking that? Maybe, maybe not. But it did happen. So there's a thing called the reticular activating system, RAS. And it's a part of your brain that helps filter out, so all this information that's coming into our brain, the RAS helps filter out the unuseful, the unneeded stuff, and focus on the things that are going to help you come closer to your goals. That's what the RAS does. So when you are obsessed, and I'm not talking this, right? I'm not talking being obsessed and then like stopping being obsessed and then going and sitting on the couch, right? That's not what I'm talking about at all. What I'm talking about is being obsessed, being convicted, and then absolutely living it, right? Living it day in, day out, getting after it. That is where the law of attraction comes into play. Moving on to AMXweekly 424, success principle number 9. Again, these are my favorite ones. Success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. Now, when I read that first in the book, I thought, I don't know if I know what that means. Success leaves clues. And then there was a quote by Tony Robbins that said something to the effect of like, this is his quote. He was looking around. He observed that, you know, successful people were doing the same thing. So he realized, hey, if I do what they're doing, I could produce the results that they're producing. So success leaves clues. Look, if you want to be a UFC fighter, if you want to host a podcast, if you want to be a superintendent, if you want to work in small business, guess what? Other people have done that same thing. There are clues to how you get there. When I wanted to pursue the UFC, guess what I did? I contacted Frankie Edgar, and then I contacted Eddie Alvarez, guys who were already fighting, guys who already were where I wanted to be. There are clues. There are things they do. There are habits they have. There are a lifestyle that they live. You can do those same thing as well. So open your eyes. Be aware of those clues. Moving on to the next episode, and this was our first repeat episode. So our first repeat episode on the podcast, and what that means, I put out so much content that when someone says, like, who's your best guest, who's your favorite guest, well, the most downloaded show ever was Mark Merrow, I'll tell you that, by a relative landslide. So Mark Merrow, former WWE wrestler and current speaker, he was by far the most downloaded ever. But it's so hard to tell because there's so much stinking content and so many valuable things that putting them up again, right? Reposting the episode. Though it's a repeat episode, there's a good chance you may have missed it. And if we choose it to be a repeat episode, that's telling you that it's worth listening to again, that there's so much richness and wealth of knowledge and wisdom and insight and possibly know-how within that episode. So on Thursday, we put out a repeat of Frankie Egger's episode. So Frankie was my first interview on the podcast. And I reference him all the time. I said the other day that I said actually on the intro to that episode that because of my association with him, both professionally and personally, and observing how he lives his life, I started to use my impartial spectator. If you're a fan of AMXweekly, you remember me talking about the impartial spectator and the book, How Adam Smith Can Change Your Life. And basically, the impartial spectator is your conscience. It's that thing that's observing you, that when you do something that might not be the best thing, it's your conscience asking you, should you really do that? Well, that impartial spectator over time became Frankie Egger, right? I would ask myself, what would Frankie do? That's it, WWFD, what would Frankie do? Because he lives at such an optimal level across the board. It's really, it's aspiring, I believe that's the correct adjective form of that word, to me and to so many people. So, and he has a fight coming up. I believe it's next Saturday. It's March 3rd, I believe it is. But it's just, it's a great, because look, the quote I took from that episode for this week, what I learned is this. He said, I'm approaching 10 years in the UFC, still going at it, still striving to get another title. That interview was done October of 2016. It's now February 2018, and guess what? Nothing's changed. Frankie's still getting after it. And if that isn't perseverance, if that isn't discipline, commitment, all of the things that how you do one thing is how you do everything, all of the things that I preach about on this show, he represents. So that's exactly why you should go to episode number 166, click, listen, and learn from one of the best fighters the UFC has ever seen. Moving on to our last learning point of the week, and this is taken from AMXweekly's 425, success principle number 12, act as if. And I'm not saying, yeah, as if, right? No, I'm saying act as if. So not long ago, I was listening to a podcast, Terry Crews, on the Tim Ferriss Show podcast. And Terry Crews is an actor, comedian, former professional athlete. He's a man of many artist as well. He's a man of many talents and super inspirational guy, super intelligent, knowledgeable guy, well-spoken, etc. I was listening to him on the Tim Ferriss Show. And they talked about so much, and it's so worth your listening. Thank you, Dredd, for pointing me in that direction, telling me to listen to it. But it is, if you're a driven, ambitious, motivated, inspired person, hard-working, committed, focused, go listen to that episode, right? Terry Crews on Tim Ferriss Show. And at one point, and this really aligns with about him, this really aligns with success principle number 12, act as if. At one point in the interview, and you'll remember it if you listen to it, Terry Crews says something to the effect of, he had all these aspirations and goals and whatever, and then he said, one day I asked myself, like, what do they do? What do these people that I'm aspiring to be, what do millionaires do? And he said, and then I just had to start doing it. That's it, right? That is act as if. Early January, I said limousine in 2018. That is the mantra of the Spaniard. That is the mantra of the show, limousine in 2018. So we're starting to do what they do. So whatever it is that you aspire to be, you act as if. Now, this is not puffing out your chest, saying I'm a professional fighter, and then never training and never doing anything, and then, being totally deflated when you're contested. What it is it's acting as if. Not just saying, I'm a professional fighter, choosing that as your identity, but acting as if. Do exactly what they do, and you will become that. Here's the deal. I grew up hating fighting, scared to death of fighting, because it meant trouble, it meant potential accident and harm to myself or another person. It meant cops, it meant handcuffs. I just didn't like it, right? But I wanted to be a professional fighter. So guess what? I had to learn to become a professional fighter. You've got to do what they do. Going back on what I was saying about Frankie and Eddie Alvarez and all these other influences in my life and career, I wanted to be like them, so I had to do what they do. Act as if, my friends, all across the board. The identity, but then their actions on a daily basis. This has been What I Learned This Week, number 49. I love these episodes. Probably my favorite to produce every weekend. It's an aggregation of the week's most power-packed learning points. I encourage you all, please visit charliespaniard.com. Opt in to get this PDF sent to you every Friday. Also, if you'd like to watch this episode as well as every AM Excellence episode on the live stream, I air it at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook.com/CharlieSpaniard. And you know what else? If you're sitting in front of a group, a school, a business, a team, a university, and you want to have old Spanny come and share his wisdom and teach the elements of excellence, teach vision, values, success, accountability, and surroundings. We're going to talk perseverance and toughness and the importance of just being focused and committed in what that actually looks like. Look, they don't call me. I don't call me the world's toughest lifelong learner for nothing. It's what I love to do. I am a learning machine, right? And I want to share that with you, with your team, with your group. So please visit charliespaniard.com/booking. Let's talk, my friends. As always, be bold. Know that I love this. Know that I appreciate any ounce of support that you can afford me. And if it's just your listenership, my friends, that's enough for me. I'll see you all on Monday morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Facebook.com/CharlieSpaniard or AM Excellence, as it'll be uploaded soon after that. Be bold, my friends. Okay, Facebook Livers. Let me share this quick. Facebook Livers, my friends, I'm going to say goodbye to you. AMX Tears, I'll be there in 1 second. If you comment, question, Facebook Live, I'll be there in a few minutes. See y'all. Thanks for tuning in.